Hey you guys, what's up? I'm Ashley from heavenathome.org, and this is the Heaven at Home podcast, where my goal is to encourage you in your personal growth journey while being open, honest, and owning my story. We have faith-based conversations and tackle a bunch of different tough topics. Check out the description to follow me and learn more. Remember, you are fully known and deeply loved. Let's do this. Hey you guys. So I'm going to be doing my very best to take this as slow as possible. I have notes here with me, but they're kind of all over the place. So I'm going to try to follow a logical train of thought here. Kind of like mentally preparing myself to do that. Okay. But today we're going to be talking about the two best things that you can do to stay toxic, or the two best things that you can do to make sure that you stay the worst version of yourself, or you stay right where you are without making any real or legitimate progress as a person, without bettering yourself. If you guys know me and you're following me, you know that I'm big on trying to do better. I think there's something about and I'm trying to do this in a healthy way, but I feel like there's something about trying to perceive God rightly that, to me, it always points to something that can be done better within me. Like, I feel like there's always something that I can do to be more pleasing. And that's something that I feel like God has actually taken me aside several times and let me know, like, hey, I love you for who you are now, like not just for who you will become, but for the person that you are right now. I love you in this moment. And most recently, someone felt impressed to say something like, I love you not for what you do for me, but just because of who you are. Like, even when you're doing nothing, and even when you're simply a daughter, I love you. And so I feel like God often kind of keeps me in check from doing too much and trying to do too much, but there is part of me that seems to be how I'm wired, where I'm like, I always want to do better, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing. It could be healthy and unhealthy, so I'm always trying to monitor that. But anyway, today we're going to get into the two character traits, or the two overall traits that can keep you stuck where you are. And I recorded this episode, I want to say maybe within the last month or so, and my heart posture was just not right. I shared this in my stories, but I was getting caught up in how these character traits can be seen in evil people. So the two character traits we're going to be diving into today is someone who is fake or inauthentic, and then the other one is someone who's unrepentant. So when I'm talking about these two things from a very broad view, these are kind of like, I want to say they're heart postures, but they're also, I feel like they're overarching character traits. And I feel like these two things these two things have the potential to be mostly associated with someone who's inherently evil or bad. And when I'm saying evil or bad, I'm describing someone who, intends harm on someone else, someone who has plans for vengeance or destruction, or, someone who wants to steal, kill, destroy in any capacity, like any agenda that partners with the enemy. That to me is what I would define as evil. And I'm letting you guys know this right now so that you can see so that you can be aware of my weakness in discussing this. I want to be like transparent about that. But, so I just want to clarify, because we are going to get into like the two different overarching character traits, but the evil way that I would define a fake person is someone who, and I think this is one of the more popular ways that we understand this, is someone who pretends to be something they're not, someone who's disingenuous, someone who is, how do I say this? Like, there's like this malicious undertone to someone pretending to be nice, pretending to love you, pretending to care for you, but in their heart, they're holding something manipulative, controlling, or narcissistic. Like, there's something evil about their heart posture. And someone who's fake in that way, like, I feel like they're more concerned with optics and appearing to be good, appearing to have like a servant nature, but I feel like they honestly don't care to do the real hard work of renewing their mind and checking their soul and healing. And what they care more about is giving off the appearance that they're a good person, when on the inside they're bitter and they're broken. What I do want to say is that because I remember having this conversation with a friend, and this is kind of going to be like a bunny trail here, but there have been times in prayer when I'm challenging myself to do the opposite of what comes naturally to me. But I'm aware of my own limitations. So, for example, I recently shared that episode about signs that you're praying for your enemy and you're doing it really well. Because at the end of the day, that process of genuinely praying for them is transforming you from the inside out. You're giving everything to God. You're praying for this person. You're trying to bless this person when it doesn't come naturally. And that is producing a spiritual fruit in you. And so I just want to clarify, like, because sometimes I feel like people can perceive someone who's working to do the opposite of what comes natural. And I feel like that is not the same as being fake. So for me, for example, when I'm communicating about someone that I maybe don't like, I can say, because what happens more often than not is like, okay, how do I describe this? This person and I don't get along. We are not in agreement. My actions are not being perceived right. And so they're not in my circle. And, they don't like me. I don't necessarily like them, but I'm going to respect them. I'm going to hold space for them. And at the end of the day, I'm going to love them. And one of the things that I challenged myself to do in my walk was to pray for them. I'm like, Lord, right now I'm seeing a lot of brokenness, bitterness, toxicity. Empower me to see them how you might see them. What is their purpose on the earth? What are you calling them to do? If you could have like the fullness of your will and your way in this person's life, what would it look like? And I prayed for them until I had that vision. And I feel like that is an example of what it looks like, because I feel like sometimes what comes natural to us is sinful and evil, or distorted, or, filtered by the brokenness of our life. And if you are conscious of the way that you are training yourself to do something more than is within your own capacity, I feel like that's a good thing, and that's a growth trait. And I want to share that in case you have people looking in on your life and they're like, you're fake for trying to bless a person that you actually don't like. No, I think there are some times where it actually is a sign of the spiritual fruit that you are doing something in partnership with the Holy Spirit. And I want to hold space for that. So kind of went into the evil way that being fake can be understood, but I want to talk about the more sensitive or delicate way of being fake. So to me, in the context of this conversation, where you're on the other end of this and you have a genuine heart to grow, you want to be better as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as a daughter, or just as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus. To me, someone who is fake is someone who is not allowing themselves to be vulnerable with anyone, and not even themselves. I don't know if you've ever had a moment where And I used to struggle with this a lot as a high schooler. I was dealing with a lot of problems at home. And I like those issues that I was having, like they were constant. And there were times I didn't want to check in with myself. I didn't want people to ask me how I was doing. I didn't want to ask myself how I was doing. It felt better to be numb. And so my issues, especially as a young person, was that I would try to medicate the pain to just feel nothing, because just being numb was a relief. And I feel like that is a symptom of trying to be fake, is not checking in with yourself often enough and asking like, hey, how am I doing? How am I feeling? What's the direction that I'm on right now? So I feel like, this kind of person is more caught up in being numb, or even like having fun, more caught up in having like surface level interactions rather than checking in with themselves and asking themselves how they're dealing with things, things that might be hiding in their heart or within their minds. I don't know if you've ever come across someone who appears to be a very people-oriented person, but I've noticed that, and this isn't even like an extrovert introvert kind of thing, but I just feel like I've noticed this pattern where whether you categorize yourself as either type of person, you will engage in many, many, many relationships. And it'll appear that, you have a lot of friends, you have a lot of things going on, but they're all very surface level. They're not very deep. And I think this category comes up a lot if you're actually dealing with a lot of pain, depression, or anxiety. You might be dealing with those things, and you might be like shutting down moments that initiate a pause, moments that make you pause to a point where you actually check in with yourself. One of the things that I think encapsulates both categories of being fake, in the evil spectrum, and then in just the, I'm just trying to survive, relatively healthy spectrum. In both examples, no one has real, true access to you. No one has access to your heart. No one has access to change your mind, because they don't know what's going on in your mind. They don't know what's going on in your heart. And although you might appear to have intimacy in your relationships because you have many, there's really like no depth. There's no space where anyone can really impact you or reach you. And because there's no real vulnerability, and the actual vulnerability is like hidden behind like all these walls of defense, or even walls of offense. Like if you're just, pick the shoe, wear it. Okay. At the end of the day, what I've seen is that you're keeping others out. You might be keeping yourself out. And I think this is even an indicator that you might be keeping God out. I've noticed in seasons where I'm neglecting myself, in a way I feel like I'm also neglecting God, because, I feel like it always starts with this question of like, how are you? Like, how are you really? Like, how's your heart? And we have this tendency to just be like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm okay. And what I've seen most often is that God truly cares about you. God truly knows you. He loves you. He wants to be there. He wants to show up for you. And I feel like if there's any part of your heart that is like tugging you in that way, pointing to something that's not okay. Like, hey, there's something going on. You need to check in with yourself. You need to let this out. You need to deal with this. I feel like more often than not, that points to our need for Jesus. And one of the most sobering lessons I've learned in this area is that more often than not, our lack of intimacy with others and ourselves can point to a lack of intimacy with Jesus. It's true for the person who's relatively healthy, wants to do better, but is just, isn't allowing themselves to sit with themselves or others. But it's also true for the evil category where there's a lack of intimacy with Jesus there as well. So that is the way that being fake or lacking integrity, not giving yourself a chance to be real with how you really are, how you're really doing, how you're really feeling, the direction that you're going. That's how you stay the worst version of yourself, is to just be fake and say, nah, everything's okay. I'm fine. So really briefly, I just want to share like some of the things that you can look for. If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know if I'm in this category or not, or if it applies. So you might be fake or you might be lacking integrity if you're pretending to be a good person on the outside, but on the inside you're offended, broken, and toxic. So I feel like this is something that can kind of come up in your healing journey when you're pretending to be further along than you really are. There's this very delicate balance, and I've shared episodes on this about healing while you're hurting. And there's this very delicate stride you have to have of noticing your offenses, being aware of your hurts, the things that have caused you pain, embracing the consequences a bit, facing them, presenting them to God, venting about it, dealing with it, and then forgiving. That whole thing, I feel like one of the things that's most empowering is when you're like, God, I can't forgive them. I can't. It's not within my capacity right now. Like, can't you see everything they've done to hurt me? But help me to love, help me to forgive, help me to get through this. Or, like saying like, God, I have no vision for the future. Give me vision. One of the most empowering things that you can do to make sure that you are going through your process, especially your process of healing authentically, is to say, God, I can't do this. I need your help to be like you right now. Like, help. So yeah, there's like the evil version where like you're pretending to be a good person, but the healthier version that is probably most common is pretending to be further along than you are. So, and then, even within the context of enemies, like, God, this person is an enemy to me. Like, they don't like me. I don't like them. I can't see them how you see them. And I'm sure that you love them. So help me to see what you see. Help me to see the value. Help me to see the purpose. Help me to see the calling, the ministry. Show me how to bless them. Because with my natural eyes, I can't do that. With, the surface level interactions I've had, I can't do that. That's how you contradict being fake. Is that, to me, is what it looks like to honestly do the work, rather than just being like, oh yeah, I love them, or oh yeah, I pray for them. I think, if you're doing things honestly, you should be able to say that you're struggling to do that it's not coming natural, and that you're working on it, So another thing, another sign you might be wrestling with the fake category is if you never look in the mirror and you never take an honest look at yourself, never ask yourself how you're doing, if you're never reflecting on things that you could have done better, or just like avoiding self-reflection. I feel like that is a sign that you're fake, because you're not looking at yourself rightly. I think the ability to stand back or sit back and be like, this person messed up, but there were some things in me that I could have done better also. Yeah. Another one is, let's see, like saying that you're sorry and ultimately never changing. And this is going to kind of get into the unrepentant category, but basically, like, it can categorize itself as being fake. Because I don't know if you guys have ever come across someone who's like, oh man, like, I'm sorry, I feel bad. But at the end of the day, their behavior doesn't change. That person is pretending to be, in my opinion, sorry. If 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 you are, I think it's very common for people to say that they're sorry and they feel bad. What is less common is someone who's like, I'm sorry, I feel bad, I see what I've done, I've seen the mistakes, I will never do that again. To I don't yeah, we'll just kind of leave that one there. But ultimately, like, saying you're sorry and then never changing, like, how sorry can you be if you continue to be the same person? It's just not, the math is not mathing. Okay. Let's see. Never pausing to consider your actions or their impact, disregarding other people's needs and limits. Yeah, I'd say if you've noticed one of the things I mentioned where, like, you're engaging in a lot of relationships, but they're cordial, they're respectful, but they lack intimacy. I think that can be a sign that that you might be disingenuous. And then ultimately, if there's no intimacy with Jesus, I feel like one of the best people to tell you about yourself is the person who knows you the most in this world. The person who knows you more than you, that's God. So yeah, there are some other, like, unhealthy or more evil attributes that I listed. If you guys want me to go into that, I guess I could do that as a separate thing. But the next thing we're going to get into, so, okay, one of the ways that you can stay the worst possible version of yourself is to be fake. The next one is to be unrepentant. So to me, the evil category of being unrepentant is someone who has an attitude of, like, oh yeah, I did that. Like, I did that. I know it was wrong. I know it was evil. I know it was messed up. I don't care. I don't care who it hurts. I don't care who it impacts. I don't care. And I'm not sorry. Like, kind of thing. I think that if you are confronted and other people make you aware that you are hurting them or you've hurt them in some way and you honestly don't care and you don't care enough to change, to me, that ensures that you're going to stay stuck. That ensures that you're going to be the worst version of yourself. You can, like, say with your mouth again, like, oh, I'm sorry, I feel bad, but you continue with your bad behavior. You don't change. And I think the sign of honest and genuine repentance is when you turn away from the thing that was hurting other people. And so, like I said, there's a category of this where, like, it's evil, like someone is doing something overtly evil. And then I think there's, like, a more common version of this where, we're just going about our relationships with our husbands, with our siblings, with our friends, with our families, our acquaintances. And, maybe there's a sense of justification there. And you think that you have a right to treat people the way that you are. I think when there is a need to repent, there should be repentance. So, to me, being unrepentant is about refusing to take the necessary steps to heal the damage that you've caused. So even when you're confronted and people are, going out of their way to let you know that you've hurt them, like, your actions have impacted them, you might offer, like, surface level apologies or excuses at, like, the best level. The worst level, or like I said, the more evil level, is where you're not sorry. You're not pretending to be sorry. You're continuing with whatever it is that you're doing to hurt people. And without true repentance marked by genuine change, any apology offered is hollow. So to me, what is most dangerous about being unrepentant, in either category of evil or just you know, normal. I guess I kind of hate to word it like that, but what is most dangerous about that is that to me, it's an indicator of hardness and stubbornness of heart. If you're doing something like that, it's not just that people do not have access to you. It's that like you are there, like there's something about your natural disposition. There's something about your character that is attacking other people, hurting other people, destroying other people, and you don't care. You're like indignant about that. Yeah, I think those are the two biggest things. So the issue that keeps you stuck with being fake is that you lack intimacy with yourself, with others, and with God. The reason why being unrepentant keeps you stuck where you are and ensures that you stay the worst possible version of yourself is because it's an indicator of hard-heartedness and stubbornness. Um, if you go through, I think I actually have a post on, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like 7 to 9 Bible verses that talk about the dangers of having a hard heart. Um, so one of the things that I would often pray, and I think it's so beautiful the way that God has shown me that He hears my prayers and He responds to my prayers. But there have been so many occasions in my process over the last 5 years where I was like, God, this is in my heart. Like, I'm angry, I'm bitter, I'm hurt, and I desperately want to be further along than I am right now. But these people betrayed me. These people overlooked me. They devalued me. They didn't defend me. Like, and so I'm like bringing all my offenses before Him, right? I'm laying it all out. I'm venting it all out. And then I end my prayer with like, God, take this from my heart. God, take this from my heart. Remove this from my heart. Take out the offense. And I'm probably going to get into this in a different episode. I'm trying to be careful always saying that. But what I've seen in the importance of learning to pray strategic prayers is that it's not just about praying against something, it's also about praying for something. So I feel like that's a really good strategy that you can use is like, God, I'm offended and I'm hurt. Take this out of my heart. That's me praying against something. Take this out of my heart. Put in love. Give me the security of your love. If no one else is defending me, help me to see that you are defending me. Like kind of replacing the thing against with the thing for. I feel like that is one of the most strategic, powerful types of prayers that you can do. But yeah, so I just wanted to highlight those two categories of people, or those two character traits to look out for throughout your life or in your interactions with other people, yourself, Jesus. To me, seeing those things should be like, if you happen to be reflecting and you're seeing those things, use that as like a point to run to Jesus. I literally wrote a prayer in my notes a couple Sundays ago. Let me see if I can find it just so I can share kind of how I pray. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So I should do an episode on, I feel like I've been having so many visions recently. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, there's this one prayer that I prayed where I asked God to have mercy on me, to have compassion on me in this moment when I'm feeling numb, to give me direction for my life. So when I'm numb or when I'm feeling numb, to me, that's like an indication like, hey, you haven't checked in with yourself. And you haven't brought something to God. Like you need to hand something over. is how I take it at this point in my life. And when I'm feeling numb, and that's kind of just my normal disposition, I'm usually using that as like a sign of like, hey, something's going on. Like, am I okay? Am I really okay? Do I need deliverance? Do I need family time? Do I need more prayer time? Like, I take that as like a warning sign. But yeah. So again, those are the two things to look for. If you find yourself in either category, know that you don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay the worst possible version of yourself. You can get better. You can do better. And you have access to more. And what I ultimately want to point this podcast to is toward like intimacy with God. If you're really genuinely going to God in prayer and conversations, if you're retreating to him in your word, I think both of these things point to a lack of intimacy. If you're being fake, if you're being unrepentant, to me that means that you don't know God. You don't see God. You're not retreating to him. You're not allowing him to know you in your vulnerable spaces. You're not trusting him. So I feel like if you're struggling here, press in, learn how to pray, learn how to hand things over, and allow God to check you. Allow God to check in on you also. Check in on me and check me. Okay, cool. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you found value from this. Let me know if you have any feedback for me or if you want any answers to something. DM me on social media. Or at this point, I'd actually say to reach out to me on my contact page on my website, heavenathome.org, because I'm off social media for a bit. I love you guys. I'll see y'all in the next one. Thank you guys so much for listening. Feel free to DM me to send me your feedback. Check out the description below to follow me on social media. This podcast is listener supported. Don't forget to subscribe. Remember, you are fully known and deeply loved. I'll see you in the next one.